Hey everybody, my name is Andres,
I'm Scott.
I'm Abe.
and thanks for tuning in to Between Two Stands, a show that takes a closer look at the personalities that make up the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
In continuing to celebrate 100 years of Orchestra Hall, this episode will be a little bit different.
Today we want to highlight the stage crew. These are the people working behind the scenes to make each concert experience as seamless as it is, and they make the entire building run smoothly.
From scheduling events to stage changes to lighting to sound and anything else you can think of that isn't the performance itself, these guys do it all. And on top of that, they're really great people, and we're so lucky to have them at Orchestra Hall. Please enjoy our interview with Dennis, Steve, and Matt.
Oh, now I'm nervous.
What's up, Dennis?
Hey, Dennis.
Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome.
Don't be
Hey guys, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to
Yeah,
see
you
you.
too.
We definitely haven't been talking for the last 15 minutes before.
Nope,
we started
not at
filming.
all, not at all. Not touching up on anything.
Yeah, great to see you, Dennis. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good to see you guys. I'm happy to be here. A little nervous, but I'm happy to be here with you
Oh,
guys.
don't be
You
nervous,
know,
man.
it's you're smiling faces that I've truly missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
You too.
We are going to grill you, so I'm glad you're nervous.
Yep,
But,
yep.
So we're asking all you guys where you worked before you ended up at Orchestra Hall.
As far as like my career, where a lot of the stagehands, our local's a little different than some of the other locals, around the nation. But what's nice about us is we do everything from operas and ballets to rock and roll. We also do commercials. We do movies. We do a lot of different things, and I think that's kind of it's an attribute that it really helps all of the stagehands, the house crew, or the extra guys coming in. I think we're well rounded and well versed in what's going on. So, when we're doing webcasts, we're lucky to have the guys that come in and do the webcast with us. When we're doing Sosnick Court, we have guys that can hang the that big picture screen. Chris Harrington, does the Cube and Jazz and Sosnick Court, and working real hard with him to keep stuff like that going and looking into the future. But we have guys that can pretty much do anything. We have projectionists, so we have audio guys, we have riggers, we have lighting guys. It's nice that whether it's me or a lot of the other guys, I think we're good, well-rounded stagehands. So.
Yeah.
For me, I was, from the Fisher to the Fox to Masonic to Joe Louis, Cobo, Music Hall, all those places I bounced around. Sometimes I spent a little bit more time there. Like the Fox for a little while, believe it or not, I was a flyman there for about 4 months. It was kind of nice.
And what is that?
The flyman actually brings in all of the battens or the pipes with all the goods on it or the scenery.
Oh,
So you're actually, so we only have like three arbors at Orchestra Hall, so you can bring the main curtain in.
Yeah.
So that's what the flyman does. Really brings all that stuff in and out. You have to counterweight it. So if you have 500 pounds of goods, you put 500 pounds on the arbor, or
Gotcha.
you put a little bit extra weight in the arbor to help it go out faster. So if the move is really something that has to go fast,
Gotcha.
maybe you make it a little arbor heavy to get to get it out. So.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those aspects of the job that just sounds like I would for sure hurt myself. Like there's no way.
Well,
that I would
you can
on
hurt
stage.
yourself or hurt somebody else too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have, really, if it's 1,000 pounds moving, each way. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's 500 pounds. So you have 1,000 pounds of mass that's constantly moving.
Right.
So.
So you were a flyman, and then what were some of your other like titles, I guess?
One of the things, I did a lot of lighting, a lot of, electrical stuff, mostly, electric and rigging was more my specialties. So, I'm a decent carpenter. I can build, but, there's a lot of guys that can build better than me, and I'll admit it, Audio, I know this much. I tell Matt Pons all the time, I know that much about audio. So, so when there's something going on stage and, he's mixing or whatever, that's why we have Steve Kemp, send him, out there to put out the fire real quick to make sure, you guys are happy.
It's definitely nice to have the team assemble like it does.
It is. And I truly think, that we're kind of blessed. It's a good team and we all kind of click. If you think about it, how many hours a week or a month or a year we spend there and how many shows we do there and the turnovers we do. And, believe me, it's not always easy sometimes. The guys that were tired and we get a little crabby. I know you find that hard to believe, but
Yeah.
it's cool. It's a very cool, unique place. And it was kind of weird for me because I bounced around. I could go to the Fisher and just do a drag in, and then I go to the Fox and do a drag in. And maybe you were lucky enough to get a show to run. Masonic early on, you get on the operas or something. That was nice. You knew your schedule, but I was always bouncing. Now I'm at the same place every day, so it really took a lot to get used to.
Right.
You were mentioning all these different places and jobs that you were working. Did you feel like you also mentioned a lot of the different venues at Orchestra Hall that you have to work all of them? You're not just the stage manager for the hall itself, but you have the Cube and Sosnick and
in the LSE.
Yeah, LSE.
We always kind of keep a tally on how things. I usually have a meeting with the orchestra hall crew or whatever with Matt, Mike, and Steve, and then I usually bring Ryan and Noel. They'll come in my office and we kind of sit down and go over the week. And we love to go over like 2 weeks in advance. That's always been the thing that's hard to do, to find the time to do that. A lot of times I'm calling them in early. They don't have to come in until 10 o'clock. I'm calling them in at 9, which means they're getting less sleep from the night before. But we're really getting a grasp on what's coming up. And I know you guys probably know and love Stephen Molina. And early on, I had one of my interviews with him. And basically, he was saying, Dennis, when you're preparing for something, what do you do? I said, I'm definitely, if I'm, rigging a show somewhere or I need to, we're going to go on location, do some lighting, I usually, make sure I got at least a week out. He says, you don't understand. Here, you got to be not a week or 2 out. You got to be a month or 2 out. And I really took that to heart.
Wow.
So, when you guys come in my office, you say, hey, how you doing or whatever, it could be Christmas, but I'm looking at Greenfield Village.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
wow.
In piano tunings, I have to line up, with the Steinway Gallery. I have to make sure I get the pianos and I lock them in early, because if I wait, sometimes a month out, it's already rented.
Right.
And sometimes they have 1 extra piano or 3 extra pianos. All depends on what's going on there. So it's I really took that to heart with Steve, and that's something I really wanted to mention during this little interview, that I really took that to heart, and it's really, really helped me truly from day one to say, and I'm, you guys see my book, and I'm constantly going through my book, and I'm highlighting.
Extremely organized, yeah.
And I guess that kind of is my job, stage manager / logistics, because we're in Sosnick Court, and I'm really not on that show. I have Ryan and Noel working it, but I have the projectionist lined up, and I have the rigger lined up, and I have, we have to make sure we get power. We have to make sure we call Orchestra Place. Can we use your power? Can we use your water? All these things are part of it, and it's kind of nice when everything is flowing and everything's happening, and you guys are walking down the hall at 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, please.
Yeah.
I get to go into a different realm too. I know that after the show starts, I'm going to be able to chill and listen to you guys. I mean, it is nice. So that, from the mayhem that goes on throughout the day. I mean, we can do 6 or 7 shows in one day in that venue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's amazing, it's amazing is like it's truly a symbiotic relationship, because, us as musicians are only concerned about the concert, which is, let's say, 2.5 hours long. And that's where we focus our energy. And you guys make everything else on either side of that run completely smoothly. And while we're stressing during that time, that's your break, and vice versa, which is it's fascinating,
It is, because and if you guys notice, most of the time when you come down the hall, I'll make eye contact with you, and I'll give you a little head nod or something, and I acknowledge you, but I don't know if you really want to talk at that point. But I'm letting you know we made eye contact, and our job, and Mike and Matt and Steve, we want the stage to be perfect. Even if we had something, we had Civic on stage on Saturday morning, and you guys are coming in Saturday night, we want it to be the same as it was for Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday. We want it to be exactly the way you guys left it, so you feel when you come in, you're ready to go. You know, that, it is the right chair, it is the right stand, or, and, we all kind of had our own little gig, because, like Mikey takes care of stage, left, Steve takes care of, stage right, Matt usually takes care of percussion, then we all kind of meet in the middle and help each other out. And moving forward with that is when we're doing webcasts, everybody has, we have Civic on stage, but where you guys chairs are set up, if we set the shot, during a rehearsal, and then we don't have the chair in the right spot, this is what we're seeing.
Right.
For the shot. We're not seeing you guys center frame. You're off. So I mean, all those little things we try hard to do. We mark the stands as best as possible to make the web guys happy. Because they're not adjusting for every one of their shots.
Right.
So
yeah, and I mean, I'm sure for you guys too, but for percussion, that's invaluable because there's the more consistent it can be, the better for us, because then we could only focus on the task at hand rather than, oh man, where are my sticks? Where's that? That used to be there. That used to be there.
And that we laid everything out at least close for you guys, just to make sure that everything's there at least, and you want to tweak it a little bit left or right. But we want it to be good for the webcast as well. We want you guys to be comfortable, and that's kind of the goal that the house crew, and even, and I say this a lot too, I couldn't do my job if I didn't have the house crew that I have and the extra stagehands that come in and out of the building. I couldn't do the job that I'm doing. I'm lucky to have these skilled people, but our goal is to make the patrons, the clients, musicians, everybody is happy when they leave the building that night or that day. That's my goal. If the client comes up and says, "Oh, you guys did a great job, thank you." "Oh, you're welcome." But when they book and they want to come back again, that's what it means to me. That this company, this group of, General Motors comes in, they go to Cobo Arena, they go to, the Fox Theater, they come to Orchestra Hall. But when they do 2 or 3 of their shows, and they'll do 4 shows a season, that makes me feel good. That makes that they're happy and they're coming in.
Right.
So.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome. We're going to ask all you guys, start with the same question, but we wanted to know where you worked before you ended up at Orchestra Hall.
Before Orchestra Hall, I worked at a company that's actually a vendor of the symphonies, and the name of the company was Thunder Audio. And they're a regional sound company who's also done international tours, big tours like Metallica and groups like that, huge large-scale PA systems. But
almost as big as the DSO, yeah.
Yeah, this was like large stuff, large-scale things. And he started as a mom-and-pop, solo guy here, and grew from out of his garage to, having a big old warehouse and semis. And,
in Detroit? Is he based in Detroit too, or?
Yeah, I mean, he's out in the suburbs. Now he's out towards the airport, but but yeah, he's mainly services the whole Metro Detroit area, and now pretty much anywhere that wants to use them. He also opened up a place in Nashville and Florida for a while too, and I'm not sure if they're both still in play, but I actually worked in Universal Studios for a while with him there one year.
Wow,
and that was pretty interesting.
Oh, nice.
Is that in Detroit too, or in Los Angeles? Or
that was in Florida, actually.
Oh, in Florida. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What did you work on there?
Okay, so we would go down there during just prior to their Halloween festival thing they do. So what they would do is they'd kind of like Cedar Point does. They turn it into a haunted place or whatever. And so we had to outfit this building with speakers in it to do sound effects and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, cool.
So the only time that we could access the park was when the park closed. So like our times to go in were like from 11 p.m. to like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And at that point in time, it was so hot. I think it was August or September, something like that, whatever, for October. And it was so dang hot. And I'll never forget that working there during that, because we'd come home to our hotel room and 6 a.m. or whatever, and our clothes would be
drenched,
totally soaked.
Yeah.
And I never had that happen before, like where I dropped my shorts and they went
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was at night. And that was at night too, right? Like,
Yeah, and it was so humid.
yeah.
You know, it was constant humidity. And then the second thing to get over with that was cockroaches.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the whole place was surrounded with like wood chips, the building or whatever. And you'd go and move your foot, and there'd be like 100 of them just running right over it. So it's like,
Yeah.
Palmetto bugs.
you couldn't not work. So you just kind of had to get over the yesterday on the cockroaches,
man.
you know. And it's like the whole
Yeah.
time. And then we had to be careful, you know. Like, I didn't want to bring them into my hotel room and stuff, so left my shoes out, washed them off, and before we
Wow.
got there. But yeah, that was quite the experience.
That's crazy, man. That's awesome.
And it's kind of funny. The three of us have all lived in Houston, and Abe, you've spent some time in Florida, and I've been in New Orleans. And like the humidity at night and that heat, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, like you mentioned Metallica and some of those big groups. Like, how does running a show like that? How is that different from like what you do with us?
As far as sound, if we're talking just strictly about sound, the differences with that is mostly when working with groups like that, the sound guy will be pretty much in total control of what the audience is hearing. With the DSO, you know, most of your stuff is acoustic, and as a sound guy, like, for classical stuff, I'm not involved pretty much at all because you guys are playing acoustic. The audience hears it acoustic unless there's some special requirement for, you know, electronic audio or a soloist that can't be heard, or guitar or something. But let's take pops, for example, because that's more of a hybrid. Mm-hmm. So now you've got the vocals, and let's say we put a band in with you or something that needs to be amplified. I'm not in total control of like saying, oh, I wish the clarinet was a little bit louder, or I want this a little bit louder, or this. I work around what's coming off the stage acoustically and bring in those elements to the mix to balance with the orchestra. And you have to work with the acoustics of the hall and everything to make it sound natural. It's not to say that I couldn't mic up everything and do all that, because sometimes we do that with, if we do it with a rock group, there's a mic on every string, there's a mic on each section, there's, you know, and in those cases, yeah, because as soon as the snare drum hits in the middle of the stage, you don't hear any violins.
Right. Right.
They don't exist. Same thing with woodwinds, you know, it's just, they're kind of disappear as soon as somebody full-blown snare drum in the middle of that stage. It just.
And what about when you record us for like a recording, you know, like a classical recording? I mean, because that's a little different too.
Yeah, the classical recording too. Let's take for instance the webcasts, because there's a few different categories of the recording that we do, but for our everyday recording, I rely on what is called like a deca tree. It's the triangle that's hung above the orchestra, and there's a couple mics off the side, and there's a couple mics usually in the audience. And usually one for a soloist if we have a soloist or a piano. And that is more of an impression of basically what the conductor would hear, but maybe a little bit back from the conductor, but also kind of what you would hear in the audience perspective, because there's the audience mics out there a little bit, even though they're very low. But it gives you a very kind of clear image of what's happening left, right, what's going on in the center. And in some ways, you can hear more detail with what's going on than you would even in the hall if you were sitting there to listen.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
All of those mics are super expensive. Preamps are very expensive. We pretty much use top of the line stuff all the way from the microphone down into the studio. And it's absolutely amazing how these microphones pick you guys up. That was one of the things when I first started working with the orchestra on these expensive Omni microphones. Like, it blows me away that the technology is there to get something so accurate that, you know, it sounds like you were standing right there.
Yeah.
You know,
that's awesome.
It's really amazing.
Hey guys.
Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve.
Good to see you guys again.
Good to
Great
see
to
you,
see
man.
you.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it
Definitely
has.
been a while.
Yeah, this is the longest it's been where we're in our season and not working for sure. I mean, it's like all of us are on sabbatical.
It's so nice to see like everybody's faces though. Like having this, getting a chance to see you guys out, since we can't be at the hall together. It's really nice to catch up.
It is nice. It's really good.
So, Steve, we're celebrating the 100th anniversary. Unfortunately, not the greatest celebration with all of us not being able to go into the hall, but the 100th anniversary of the hall. And so we kind of wanted to, start off with asking you your experience in Orchestra Hall, and well, first of all, where have you worked before Orchestra Hall?
Well, for years I was a freelance sound guy out of Lansing. I moved down to Detroit, got involved with the stagehands local here, Go 38, and my first, and I worked in all the theaters and in the arenas. My first house job though was at Joe Louis Arena and Cobo Arena, being the house sound man for both those venues for about 6.5 years. And then an opportunity opened up at the Opera House. So hockey to opera, a natural progression.
Basically the same thing, just as violent.
Yes.
And I was there for 3 years before the Max M. Fisher opened up in 2003. And I went there, and about 8 years later, I became staff with you guys, the orchestra.
That's
so
awesome.
That pretty much sums it up.
And you did you did concerts at Joe Louis too. You did hockey and
as well.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, so any event that was there, I did, and Cobo as well. But if they conflicted, we'd bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
How did you get into the sounds? What was your path into this field?
I had no career choice. My mom was a piano teacher, and so I took classical piano when I was young, and then I got involved in rock bands. My father was a sound man for public radio and public television.
Oh, wow.
So when we were playing, it was called Dad to find out how the stuff works. Mm-hmm. And then I got to college. I was an English major.
That's something I didn't know about you.
But yeah, that path took me down somewhere else. No, my friends were all in bands in college, so I'd go down on the bars and do sound for them. And then I realized, hey, this is what I want to do. So
that's awesome.
That's how I got started. Stuck with it.
That kind of that's a good lead into the next question. But I know that you love music and you play music, and did that? Would you say that interest in music kind of led you to this? Is that?
Oh, certainly. I mean, how else could you enjoy doing sound if you didn't love doing hearing the music and knowing about it? The thing about my playing is I hated practicing, but
it's a necessary evil.
That sounds familiar.
I loved music theory, so that made it easier for me to work with musicians in a sense, to understand where they're coming from. Yeah.
Except when we're being pains in the butt, but other than that,
there's that.
You didn't account for our personalities.
What? There's only 90 some of them. I mean, they're all different.
Right.
I still haven't gotten my chair.
Okay, now Scott came up. He saw that we had 12 different chairs out there. He asked me, could he get a special chair?
I need a special chair, something to hold the keg.
Well, I thought I started with a cup holder, and then we evolved it into a tap with a keg underneath and a nitrogen tank to blow the. And for tacits.
Yeah, I think we've got the schematics down. It's just like building and everything.
Well, it's getting the financing for the prototype.
Of course.
I'm having a little trouble with that.
Well, do you have the schematic? Do you have a drawing of it?
I actually do.
We should grab a picture of that to show everybody.
Well, I don't know where it is right now. It's probably in the hall.
probably. That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys. That's another one of the many things you guys do is you like build and engineer things to like help run the freaking operation. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is that piano humidifier that you guys built, which was like
Dennis is the king of that, and what he can't do, he knows who to get to do it. And, and it's great.
And it's basically
we all like working with bands. So.
Yeah. There's a whole workshop down there. Yeah, basically, like what a piano humidifier does is, with the changing of the seasons, the humidity in Orchestra Hall changes, and it therefore kind of creates problems for instruments. So and the piano too. So it's this kind of like thing that fits underneath the piano that creates a constant humidity, which is incredible. And it's really, it looks very. Have you not seen that, Abe?
I have seen.
Oh, you have seen? Yeah. It's really great. So,
we didn't have a room to put the pianos in that was, completely controlled.
Yeah.
So that was Dennis's solution. It's great.
So you made one.
Yeah.
Built two.
That's awesome. So Steve, sorry, go ahead.
Steve, before we started recording, you mentioned that you have a great story about the first time you came to Orchestra Hall.
Oh,
so I'd love to hear that story.
It was the late '80s, like '88 in there somewhere, when the hall was first redone. First time it was renovated.
Okay.
It actually was. I don't think it was actually quite finished. I was mixing sound for Dizzy Gillespie, and
awesome.
We played in Orchestra Hall. And we started the sound check, and I was out front at the mixing board, and I remember just standing there with my mouth open and listening to the band play, and was like, oh, this room is going to do all my work for me.
Yeah.
I immediately fell in love. It was the best room I'd ever been in acoustically, ever.
Wow.
And I had no idea that 20 some years later I'd be living there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's my story. I just think it's
great.
great.
You probably spend more time there than anywhere else now, right?
Yeah. Yes.
He's not kidding when he says I'm living there.
Yeah.
So Steve, this is a weird question, but like with all the time you spent there and everything else, do you think that there's some aspect of the hall that makes it so great that that you might have a clue, just some insights into?
I think about it, but they didn't have computers to help design this, and if you actually look at the room, you can figure out that it's not symmetrical, and there's certain like thicknesses of plaster in different areas which isn't the same, and the shape of the room is different. I don't think there's an exact science to explain it, but it's the room. It's got the sound. It's amazing. And what I think is cool, and it's so good for you guys too, because the sound comes back at you and you can hear yourselves better than on most stages.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it is like, I played on stages that are state of the art, and they're brand new, and they, have these acousticians in there, and they have the sciences, but you can't really like hear what the other people are playing on the other side of the stage. So it's like, well, that doesn't help at all, and we're pretty lucky to have that luxury,
Yeah. And anytime I get a chance to mix in that room, I'm in heaven. So
yeah, that's awesome. So Steve, this is a question that we're going to ask all you guys, so it'll be interesting to see your guys' answers. But what is the craziest stage change you ever had to do at Orchestra Hall? And also, what was one for that wasn't at Orchestra Hall?
Well, I think the timpani concerto we did before, what was it? Become Ocean.
Yeah.
The two different. They were such different setups. That was a horror show for us. I mean, we had to take an extra long intermission just to do the change, and we never have to take more than 15 minutes, And I think that was the craziest one I can remember at the hall. It was fun, because it was such a challenge, but it was different.
Yeah. Luckily, we have footage
I gotta
of that.
say opera, you know.
Oh,
Doing
that makes
operas.
sense.
Oh my God! Some of the changes we did were just amazing to me. I would just stand there and watch the carpenters move these huge set pieces. Just wow.
In between,
Just wow.
in between intermission and the second half, first and second half, or
For the opera, you mean?
yeah, or
In between acts.
in between acts.
Depending on how many acts they had, it's 3 or 4. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But the curtain would go down, and all of a sudden the stage is just moving. It was pretty cool.
Is there has to have been some like memorable bloopers during? I mean, with all that stuff going on. I mean, is there a time where like someone forgot to put out a panel and it's like some guy working on the lights accidentally when the curtains open up?
Oh yeah, that happened. I actually got trapped behind a pillar.
Of course,
For an entire act because the carpenters couldn't move it, so I jumped in to help them, and all of a sudden they scattered, and the curtain went up, and I'm behind this pillar. And
so was this for like a Wagner opera where it's like an hour and a half? No,
it wasn't that bad. It was like half an hour. I'm standing there, and of course, all the stage crew is standing on the side of the stage laughing at me, just pointing at me and laughing. Yeah, you're stuck.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Did any of the performers like get caught off guard?
No, they didn't see me. They were in front of me,
so you could say on your resume that you've soloed with the Michigan Opera. I mean, you've been on stage with them.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
and there was Orchestra Hall once. We did a piano move, and I swear to God that the piano bench didn't go out because I see it there. So I grabbed it and started out, and I got halfway across the stage, and I realized that somebody else had grabbed the right piano bench. So I had to turn around and walk back. And of course, the violists are all laughing,
Yeah. Oh, man.
But anyway.
That's pretty great. Yeah, there's so much error that can happen that doesn't happen. It's amazing, like you guys are always just on point with everything. It's like I've never witnessed any mishap since I've been there, and I mean it's amazing, man. You guys rock. So so Dennis, what was the craziest thing to happen on your watch, or like when you were working like on a stage change? Like I'm sure like there's so much that can go wrong. And over the years, I'm sure there's been 1 or 2 things that has gone wrong. So what's memorable?
So, one of my things is, I always try to get in the zone, get my suit on. I'm, 15 minutes before. That's kind of my thing, and I kind of, close the office down, close the book, and get my suit on and get on the stage, make sure the boys are there, get the video rolling, make sure ads haven't changed, kind of thing. But, what was the concert that we totally switched the whole stage around from left to right and right to left, and we had temps that were upstage, or no, they started mid-stage. We had to move.
Become Ocean? Is this Become Ocean?
It is, because we had a Baroque piece with at the beginning that had the timpani in the middle of the stage, and then we had the timpani concerto. The Philip Glass, and then you had to completely strip for the Become Ocean, which had lighting effects too. It was like
yes, exactly. So that was probably that one stick. As soon as you say that, that's what sticks out in my mind more than anything else is that. And luckily I do have I go back to my extra stagehands who I all love dearly, who I worked with for all those years on the extra list, but those guys come in and they can essentially be bulletproof for me. Bill, a.k.a. Bear, Bill McLeod, Mike Tote, those guys, they blend in so well. And I don't know if you guys see it or not, but I bring them in a little early and we rehearse. Who's doing this, who's going. So it's not a free-for-all by any means.
Right.
And at a certain point in time, if you guys notice, I'll be back stage left, make it. And then I start, counting down. Okay, you guys are good here. You guys are good here. Mikey, how about you? Are you happy? And we kind of, and then you guys are starting to move down. Sometimes I hold you guys off a little bit. Right. So, so stuff like that, it's memorable. And as you guys know, I time everything. Everything is timed. If the concert starts, intermission, and, we started out at, they're going to give us I can't even remember now, 25 minutes. You know what I mean? It was supposed to be a 15-minute.
Yeah.
So, in each time we did that concert, we were shaving like 2 minutes off each time. So we shaved,
That
6 or 8
crazy,
minutes
man.
off, which is wonderful. And as I'm looking at my phone, I'm like, oh, wow, that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah.
And then we all came off. Everybody had we had a little bit of breathing time, but you guys come on stage and have a little more time to warm up each day.
Right.
So,
right.
it's
Yeah, it's
that was
amazing.
kind of one
It's
of my
amazing,
most
man.
memorable.
Yeah, I mean,
could
just
imagine.
just the fact that like you guys like it's almost like it looks like organized chaos. It's like it's just,
Yes,
like
it
comes
is.
on. It's just you're tearing things up, you're resetting, but like there's certainly a method to it. Which I feel like we appreciate, and I feel like the audience certainly should and hopefully will
Because they got to
appreciate.
see the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I hope you take this as the compliment that it's intended. But like one of the things that I really
Here we go.
appreciate, one of the things that I really appreciate is how little, as a musician, you have to know about the job you're doing. Like we rely on it 100%, but we can just show up, sit down, and play, and that's all we have to worry about. And it's such a luxury.
And I will take that as a compliment forever. That I appreciate that because that is our main goal. It really is. As we move along, all of us, I say there's 8. I always use the number of 85. There's 85 of you on stage. If all 85 are happy when you want, that makes me feel better. It really does. And believe it or not, Mikey and Steve, Matt's usually in the basement. Sometimes he's upstairs for the pups, but we all work very hard to make sure you guys are comfortable. And that's our goal. When you're on stage, you are comfortable, whether it's not too hot, not too cold, chairs are everything.
And we can be a little complainy sometimes.
That's very true.
Rarely.
Yeah.
So
well, that's nice, man.
And it is, when we go to Greenfield Village, I truly want to make sure the sun isn't beating on you guys at the end of the day. We do start later. We do try. We put the goods up. That's just part of our DNA now. We want you guys to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, so the goods at Greenfield Village, you're talking about like the stage itself.
Yes,
like
yes. So
everything, because you have to build that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we build the stage and the decking. We hang all the lights. We put all the audio out.
Yeah.
We did a time lapse of that concert we were just talking about. We should do a time lapse once of us setting up. We should do it this year. I hope and pray. And
Greenfield
we
Village?
could do a time lapse. Of the 3 days of setting up.
Yeah.
For Greenfield
Yeah.
That would be
Village.
really
So-
cool. That would be very
Would be-
cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt, what was your most memorable experience at Orchestra Hall? Whether that was like a musical one or anything.
I think the reopening of the hall was a really big deal. That was pretty neat to see that whole expansion happen. Because before we didn't have any room for any storage really, and we had trailers for offices, and that was just to see that happen and go up, and the excitement around that time for the new building was spectacular.
Because
And then
where
there's
was
been-
it? Where would it end? Where what was the hall before that?
like pretty much when you come off stage left, heading towards like the musicians lounge and everything like that.
Yeah.
If you could picture how it is stage right now by your percussion stuff, that's
Yeah.
pretty much how much space they had over there before.
Wow.
But they put when you'd come through those double doors, you'd enter a trailer. So they put mobile home kind of like type trailers for just a couple of offices and a little bit of a walkway. And Norris would sit at the end of one of the trailers and let you in.
Wow. That's crazy, man. That's like such a different experience,
Oh yeah. And in the basement too, the basement ended when you come down those steps right around the hall. That's it. That's what it was. That was the basement that's what the storage, what we had there. And we still had to store the bleachers foyer down there.
Oh my god.
Which we still do.
Right.
Yeah.
But now we have a lot more room to store everything else.
Right.
But back then, there was
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, I bet everybody was much happier with the space and the room and just like, just everything, right? I mean, just the fact that it was open.
yeah, it was so much nicer to like, wow, we can put this over here now and have this over here. And, we didn't have to, those bleachers were just so terrible because they were, now we have plenty of space to put them now. But back in the day, we had them tucked around a corner, and you had to literally lift up the metal parts to them and slam them into this little cubby. And then when I started there, I was pretty young, so they'd always send me into the hole.
Of course.
To, like, grab the steel and lift it up, and then start to pass it back to the other guys.
Yeah.
And it was just, now we got Dennis, and he made all these carts for him and stuff, and we just rolled that big cart out and bring it up that big cart of. But yeah, that was always
Matt in the hole.
Yeah, exactly. We're all back there, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of funny because my first memory of Orchestra Hall is from my audition. And the first thing I noticed was, you check in and they say, welcome, we have a room for you and we'll take you there to warm up and everything.
Right.
But the rooms that they had for us are like the locker rooms and some of the practice rooms in the new parts of the building. And I immediately was like, this is kind of nice. I like this.
Right.
Like,
okay. Little rehearsal spaces and all that. But yeah, because before everybody would just kind of be off stage or wherever to,
right.
Yeah.
warm up and stuff. You didn't have a little spot to go hide by yourself and play a little bit, or there wasn't really a percussion room per se at that point.
Right. Wow, I don't know how they did that.
Let's put them back outside. That's where they belong.
So Matt, well, first of all, you are a drummer, and you are like an 80s like rock drummer, and which is awesome. Hopefully we can get a picture of your setup at some point, because that would be very cool for people to see. But we were wondering what, in your career, what the most memorable band, musician, group was that you had the opportunity to play with or to work with or do sound for.
Well, if we want to talk about the metal, so in my early 20s, I was a big Metallica fan and all that, and then like I said, the audio company that I used to work for, and I actually still worked for at the time, started a relationship with them. And when they did that, they had an album called, I think it was Garage Days Revisited or something like that, and they did a small tour of just theaters, which was unheard of at that point in time for them. They were arena everywhere, wherever they went, sold out.
Yeah. And
they played at the State Theater, which is now the Fillmore or whatever they call it now, just down the street from Orchestra Hall. So they did that, and during the sound check, they needed somebody to smack the drums for them. So I was there doing monitors and stuff, and I went out there and got to play his set, and I was like,
that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm sitting behind Lars, his drum set, how crazy is this?
That's amazing, man.
That's amazing, yeah.
And then I quickly found out, I was like, my balloon kind of deflated real quick, because I was like, damn, this drum set sounds good.
You're like, I make it sound good.
And then the monitor that he had was like a PA system on the side of him, and as soon as I hit something, I was like blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, can you turn that down? It was just like,
wow,
bleedingly loud.
So maybe sometimes it's not good to meet your heroes, I guess, or.
Yeah, and then another really memorable one was I was working for the same audio company, and I was working with Rick James in Toledo, and he was another one. Was just like, he's like, kept telling me, turn it up, man. And I literally had a PA system on each side of the stage just for the band, and we call them side fills. And then he had 4 wedges in front of him on top of that. And he came over to me, and after the third time of him telling me to turn it up, he's like, man, turn it up one more time. He's like, don't worry about hurting me, boy. I'm like, okay. And so I went even further, and I was used to working at the time with a lot of times with the DSO and things too. So the feedback for me was not an option. He didn't care if it fed back. He just wanted it
loud.
Wow. And it was so loud that on my end, from the other side of the stage, I could hear the speaker blowing at him from 50 feet away, and it was loud, crushing me, that I put earplugs in. And at the end of the night, I went through the system and checked it, and sure enough, I had blown 2 speakers. He came off the stage It's like, man, that's the best ever. Thank you. And the band was all like, man, it's so great. We're going to see you tomorrow, for the other show, and you're coming with us on the rest of the tour, right? And I'm like, I'm going to Florida, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I gotta work on some cockroach infested haunted house thing, but that was fun.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you with one of your hobbies, you have this Mustang that I know about, and I haven't seen, like, you've shown me a picture, but I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Do you feel like working on that and those kind of engineering projects just helps you a little bit in designing things for the hall too, or is it?
It does, and I'll, just to set the record straight, the car's a good 20-footer. It looks good for 20 feet. Very close, you're going to see the scratches and the dents and all those. Stagehands are kind of like engineers. We whether it's to the chain motors or the trusses or the power to lay out the lighting or putting the microphones in the right spot. All that isn't. Going back to the Mustang, it's fun because you're trying to get it to run right. You're working on the timing and you're working on the carburation and you're working on the linkage for the transmission. So all these little things. When I'm in the garage working on it, that to me, my knuckles get busted up a little bit or I'm greasy, but that's total decompression for me.
Yeah.
I'm coming from Orchestra Hall, and the nights that we have like a Friday night off, or there's a Sunday off, I kind of get up in the morning with my wife, we'll have a cup of coffee, we'll chill, and that's what I want to do. I just want to go in the garage, turn the radio on and just tweak or play or putz, and that really helps me, even though I'm not sitting down, which would be nice as well, but it kind of breaks up the monotony. And then when you're driving the car, everything is gone.
That's awesome.
It's
well, you
fun.
can also, when you're driving, you can focus on like, oh, okay, I think I still need to tweak on that.
Yeah.
I thought when you said 20-footer, it meant that the car only goes 20 feet.
It's kind of an old term. Yeah, the car looks great. It's a 20-footer or if it's a 50-footer, but
right.
It's fun. It's been fun working on it for all these years. It's I've had a few cars over the years, but this is one I really have dove into more than any of the other cars. So
that's amazing.
Kind of holds a little more special in my heart. That every time it starts, it's a blessing. So
yeah.